Alright everyone, it's time for the Occult video number 382. How can mankind populate the stars? This is sort of a sci-fi level question, but it verges in on the paranormal at times. And of course you're talking about string theory and wormholes and all of these other things. When you talk about space exploration and what is or is not scientifically possible, like what can humans actually do? What are the ultimate limits that we can stretch with regards to our movement around in space? Right now, with our current iteration of technology, it would be impossible for humans to go beyond the solar system. Even with a significant upgrade to speed, etc., it wouldn't be possible for a human to go from this star system to even the next closest star system, where we don't have any evidence there's anything to colonize anyway. You have to get a few further from that before you get some potentially habitable Earth-like planets in the Goldilocks zone. And unless you want to live on a barren wasteland of ice or fire, you're going to have to deal with those things. How can we, therefore, piggyback from one star system to another? We can colonize the moon with a temporary colony, or make it permanent with a huge investment of resources. I do suggest establishing a lunar colony because of the ease of using that to then go further. It could be helpful. Mars, maybe. It's just barely on the edge of habitability. There are parts of Mars that are a little bit better than being at the ice caps or in the middle of the freezing at night, roaring heat during the day desert that encompasses much of its equatorial region. You could settle underground, I suppose. That would make it marginally better. Not really, but it'd take a lot of effort. But how do we go further than that? It looks like we're locked in our star system. There are a variety of methodologies by which we could potentially escape our prison colony, which is this star system, where Enki put us all. According to Sumerian legend, that's not far off the base. The first would be to increase massively the speed with which objects travel in space. Give them a huge boost. This would probably be easiest with a space-mounted railgun. So in orbit, above the Earth itself, so you don't have to worry about getting out of the Earth's gravitational pull. You can put it on the moon too. You assemble your rocket with all of the thrusters, etc., put your astronauts or cosmonauts or whatever inside, and then you have a massive miles-long railgun, sort of like a particle accelerator, and then you fire it out of that, and then it uses its rockets for additional boosting. Of course, it would need fuel to maneuver in space in case the trajectory is off by literally 1/1,000,000th of 1%, because then you will over or undershoot the target and everyone will die. You could probably get objects moving faster in this manner. Now, is it feasible? It is technologically possible, but is it reasonable? No, not really. Budget-wise, I don't think that would be successful. It'd be very interesting to people. A lot of sci-fi nerds would love the idea. You would also run the risk of destroying your rocket on the first try, and once you've put that much investment into something, yeah, I think the average person would chuff at the multi-trillion-dollar budget that would require, considering there's a fairly high risk, because if literally one screw or bolt is very slightly out of alignment, you fail. And even if the railgun itself doesn't get damaged, you might assemble it only to find that it doesn't work properly. The astronauts potentially get lost or die, and then you've got a massive chunk of material floating above Earth, potentially careening back down at some point in the future. If you've put it on the moon, of course it's more remote, that's a little bit better. But then you have to get all the materials there and assemble it on the goddamn moon. So while it's potentially a possible idea, I don't know how feasible it is. The second idea, I think, is more feasible. It's probably the most feasible method with regards to how humans can colonize other areas of the universe. Or galaxy. I don't think we'll get beyond the galaxy. That's a stretch even further than getting beyond the star system. Shotgunning potentially habitable areas with relatively rudimentary rockets, with computer systems on board and material that is capable of constructing genetic code. So, you would have a rocket. It would be larger than the rockets we're using now. It would be space station sized. It would contain biological material, possibly clonal lines that are maintained automatically. You could also have a human on board caretaking all these things, but a machine might do better in deep space because the human would be on a suicide mission. It would take decades for it to reach anything potentially habitable, even in nearby star systems. You have the biological material. and a caretaker module that's capable of using that biological material, which it is maintaining actively in a fairly enclosed, high-efficiency system, controlled by computers, literally AI, in order to construct a human upon arrival. Artificial womb, genetic material, it's all there being replicated over and over to keep it fresh, to keep it new. And then when you get there, you gestate human beings. You've landed on the planet, now you have a bunch of babies. You literally have a caretaker AI system aboard the ship with all the resources needed to feed and to train the babies, basically. You'd effectively need humanoid robots to do this. Otherwise, those kids would be massively screwed up. And then you colonize the planet. Now, even in a vacuum without training, those humans would still be human. They would still have advanced capabilities compared to most animals. But they wouldn't have the upper learning skills. So you would need to have a good schooling system aboard. Yes, you would literally need to have a robot teaching these new humans how to make fire, how to repair the ship potentially, etc., etc. You'd need to have like at least a K through 12 education for these new humans, and they would be bereaved of the normal parental comfort, and we're not 100% sure how they would react to this. It might not be pretty. They might not survive at all, and of course Earth would be unaware of whether they had survived. There'd be no way to get a signal back. The hope is that somewhere out there would be another group of humans. They would probably eventually, if they survive, spawn a mythology around this. They would probably end up worshipping in a few generations the AI system, and when told to cut it out, they would probably destroy it, and they would probably start making jewelry out of components from the craft. You'd need to make sure there weren't any significantly toxic materials aboard the craft, or people would probably start using it as medicine or something, by the way. This is, ironically, probably the easiest methodology. We wouldn't benefit from it, no person alive would benefit from it, but humans would arise potentially on in other worlds. The third method is to use a space-mounted solar platform to broadcast high-power messages out into space. So, in other words, we're stuck. We're not really sure how we're going to get out of the solar system. Let's bombard nearby areas with various frequencies and various messages and hope that someone takes notice and comes and effectively rescues us from Prison Island. Think of yourself on a remote island, uninhabited other than for yourself, and you're sending up smoke signals. It's the smoke signal strategy. This would be, I think, better than the Railgun, although it would still be massively expensive because it would be orbiting the sun, possibly at the range of roughly Venus or something like that. And it would gobble up energy. It would have on the back, of course, to keep it from melting, a huge array of batteries and signalers, etc. And it would randomly broadcast messages out in the direction of other star systems around this part of the galaxy. And then the hope is that someone notices it and they pick us up on the way to to Mos Eisley or something like that. And the fourth is studying wormholes. We're not sure that they exist. They're entirely theoretical. If they do exist, you could, in theory, go from one point to another in the galaxy instantaneously, and it would be very, very simple. Except for one real big problem that a lot of people don't quite understand. The object moving through the wormhole would like as not disintegrate into a pile of subatomic mush by the time it got on the outside, because the two halves of that thing that is moving through the wormhole are technically severed at the time. Kind of, sort of, not, kind of, sort of, yes, and we're not sure. It's like if you built a teleporter. Would the person that comes out on the other end simply turn into a pile of dust? I think probably so. I don't think that it's actually possible to do that and hold an object together. Certainly not an object that requires its cognition to continue. Because of the molecular state of everything in the brain at the time that half of them is in and half of them is out of the teleporter, that would be a big problem. It would have to be a three-dimensional teleporter, and I'm still not sure that that would work. I don't think that's probably technologically possible. So yeah, those are the suggestions. Don't expect that humans from this world itself, living today, even at much higher levels of technology, will be able to get to another star system. It's probably not physically possible. If they got there, they'd be much, much older, and they would never be able to communicate with Earth anyway, other than maybe a brief text message at some point when they leave the edge of the solar system. However, it is possible to get humans to other worlds using standard rockets if you invest enough time in AI. And of course, as Starlink especially has showed us, You could build thousands and thousands and thousands of rockets fairly easily, outfit them with AI programs that are self-maintaining, which is reasonably within possibility by this point. It's capable of maintaining the ship and capable of maintaining biological material. The next best step would be to mount a massive array around the sun and just fire messages off into space and hope that somebody hears. You may regret that, though, if they actually hear it. In fact, you may regret sending so many rockets as we've already sent into deep space. Somebody malicious might notice them before somebody benevolent. Might not be Enki that notices that humans have decided to develop advanced technology. That's about all. Peace out.